Kyle Larson, our race-winning crew chief, Cliff Daniels. Congratulations on a very dominating performance. We will go ahead and open for questions. If you have a question for Kyle or Cliff, go ahead and raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. We'll start up front with Scotty.
Scotty Sprinkle, Race Face Digital. This one's for you, Cliff. I talked with Jonathan Hassler and Billy Scott, and they both said they kind of thought it would lean more into a tire wear race, and obviously that didn't happen. I'm curious for you, going back to yesterday, what were your thoughts after practice, and then coming to the track today, seeing the weather and everything before the green, what did you think the tires were going to be like?
I think all of us in the garage probably had a lot of speculation still. Certainly, the track conditions, the temps, and even really the pace of practice yesterday was just really high, really abusive on the tires for what those conditions were. Today we had a lot of direct sunlight on the track, so with that comes a bit more track temp. We had a fresh application of PJ1. It's crazy to think that the margin is that small between the tires holding up and having enough temp in them to activate whatever the juices are that makes it work out and not shred them like it did yesterday. I don't know that we had a very strong opinion one way or the other, more skeptical, but Kyle and I both looked at the track a little while before the race and thought if anything it had more potential to take rubber today.
All right, our next question will go to Zach Cernolino up front.
Zach Sternilo, NASCAR.com. Cliff, to your left. I'm curious, going off the tire thing, when you have a situation where you see the tires cording as much as they were, you're coming into this race weekend expecting one thing. Does that give you any sort of doubt? How much does that change what your preparation for the race is, and how quickly then do you have to adapt when you go 50 laps into the race today and see that that's not the case?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly had, kind of a two-part conversation around what it would look like for a rubber race. It wasn't a fully rubbered-in race, but certainly the tires made it. And then the conversation around what it would be like if it was a kind of a chaos-type race with a lot of tire wear. To be honest, our learning experience from last year, when it was the kind of the chaos race, was a well-balanced car was still going to give you the best potential to manage it on either side. So our focus yesterday in practice, even though we went really fast for what our run was and wore out our tires really quickly, gave us a great read on the balance of the car and a couple little things that we could just take into today, knowing that, again, either way the race could potentially go. We're just trying to set ourselves up for the best opportunity for longevity, for pace, for Kyle being able to manage the runs, with the tire degradation in mind. Certainly no right answer, but we were hopeful that a balanced car would present a decent potential for either scenario.
All right, we're going to continue with questions. We'll come over here to Jordan.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. Cliff, we've heard from Kyle, we've heard from Jeff about this week. From your perspective, what has this been like for you with John?
Yeah, I genuinely appreciate you asking that question. It's it's been a tough week for our team for many reasons. Obviously, the most monumental of all was losing our beloved Sean Edwards, and to me, just stepping back and trying to reflect on what the week has been, because we've been very zoomed into it. I was very close to a lot of conversations with John this week, even right before his passing, and just involved in a lot of the things right after. The outreach from the community, from all of the people that he's touched, his network has been so big over so many years within our sport and our industry. That's been so heartwarming to see, the people that loved him for so many years, the people that he impacted. And it's that way for a reason. John carried himself with a lot of joy, a lot of care for others. I can just think of so many situations in our time together where it didn't matter who it was or what publication or what media outlet or what driver, team, anybody. John had the same high level of care and concern and love for others, irregardless of who it was, and that's what made him such a joy to be around. And to lose him as a friend and a teammate is sad and tough for all of us, but it's almost brought about a little bit of peace and joy for his life to see how many people that he touched. And genuinely, I think that's his legacy. To challenge everyone to think about others that way, to carry themselves that way with so many, we were talking about it this morning with our resident chaplain, Donnie Floyd. John lived out so many godly characteristics just in kindness and the grace that he showed to others. That's the impact he has on us, and I believe that's the impact he has on our community at large.
I asked Kyle and Jeff this question too, so I'm going to ask you, favorite memory?
Absolutely. He would always come up to me before every race. Hey, Cliff, when we win later and when we dominate later, we're going to do this, this, and this after the race. And I'm a big don't jinx it guy, so I'm always like, John, no, you can't say when we win. Every Sunday, yeah, when we kick their ass today, Cliff, we're going to do this later. So I missed that, and I enjoyed that interaction before every race because he knew that it was fun to say, but he also knew that it would kind of twist me a little. So I appreciated that.
You did kick their ass today.
I say, I'm sure he didn't jinx today. So
He didn't jinx today. That's right.
Ask you this question. We had this race a year ago. It was a high tire wear. Drivers say that puts it in their hands, et cetera, et cetera. When you look at today's race versus last year's race, do you have a preference of what you want last year, this year, somewhere in the middle?
Go ahead.
I've led 860 something laps the last two,
873.
so obviously I'm going to be biased to this. I just think it's more fun. Like we're still out there managing, our runs. So I don't know. I don't know. Last year was a very excessive. I mean, we were running maybe 50%, throughout a run. And that was too much. But then, today we're much closer to 100% every lap, but, somewhere between 85 to 90%, trying to still manage everything, like me in the lead, like I don't want to get my stuff too hot to where when I catch traffic, I can't pass lappers. So, I think that's why Denny and I were still able to, lap a lot of cars is because we still did a good job managing our tires. Although it might be a little less wear, it's still a lot more temp related that you're managing. So I would obviously love it if it could still, like the tire could lay more rubber and the pace would, the track would get slicker. Like with Xfinity, it gets really black. And when it gets black, it's just greasy feeling and the pace slows down. Where when it's kind of a lighter gray like it is for the cup cars we run here, it does keep it faster pace. So I would more ask for a tire that sticks the rubber to the track because it'll have us sliding around more and like slowing down more.
Yeah, and I think my answer would be very similar. I just don't know that for the race that we want to see out of a race, that the conditions and the formula of what was the spring race a year ago is something that would be healthy from a racing standpoint. To me today, man, you had lanes across the entire racing surface. You had guys slipping around. Go look at the right side of our car. It's destroyed from getting through traffic and touching guys and fenders. We have donuts on the side of the car. Doing my homework this week, I watched the 2004 Bristol night race. One lane on the bottom. Rusty led almost the whole race until Rusty had a bad pit stop and Dale Jr. won the race. And there was no passes for the lead, not a whole lot of things that happened. There was no upper lane. To me, today's race, when the top two cars are within a second apart, navigating through traffic in every single lane that was available and bouncing off of lap cars, I know we want cautions and yellows for excitement, but from a racing purist standpoint, today's race was a heck of a race because Denny was coming. He put pressure on us. We knew it. We had to take chances. Man, that just presents such a good race from our seat. And to Kyle's point, when rubber starts to stack a little bit and you're sliding around, you guys probably heard him call out one run. He overheated his right rear tire. Hey, man, right rear tire's starting to wear out some. That's great. That's what you want to see for the way, it was all playing out today.
And if I could add, too, I think last spring we were all caught off guard by it and we were all learning on the fly, so that's why we were 2-3 wide and like we weren't really sure what was wearing the tires out, what lane it was. Well, by the end of it, we all learned, what was wearing the tires out. So that's why I think you saw in the first 25 laps today, the whole field was single file. Like I'm curious if fans would have thought that was exciting if we just rode in a train for, 500 laps around the bottom because while running 50%, and all still wearing our tires out about the same time anyways. So I just believe it's more exciting when you can let the drivers push and run closer to the edge of making mistakes.
I think that's a good point, and I don't think that had we had the same amount of tire wear today as we had from the spring race a year ago, it would have been anywhere close to that level of a race, because all we've talked about all week long coming here is, okay, now that we know it, you have to protect. So to his point, it would have very likely been a very, slow single file lane around the bottom until somebody wears them out, you pit, and join back into the single file lane around the bottom. I think that's how it would have gone.
All right, we're going to continue with questions. John, do you still have a question? Okay. Go right here in the middle.
So John Newby, Savage Ventures. So kind of following up on those points you made, you mentioned, 873 laps led in the last 2 races combined. What is it about, I guess, the more standard Bristol that you guys excel at so well?
I think for us, the last 2 races, we've qualified well, which really helps. And then our car balance is just really good. I could tell right away in practice this time around, like, my car was extremely good. And then I think, too, when I spend 800 and something laps out front, like, you just become a better leader and a better, driver at managing the pace and learning what it takes to set guys up and what to look for in passing and keeping that buffer to second. So I think just experience to go along with a good car and a track that I've really always ran well here. Just knew now I kind of have the team and car to go along with it.
And then just kind of following up on what she said about like the experience. Watching from the press box, you could see other drivers, they'd try kind of that diamond pattern that you run, but if they would see 2 cars kind of spaced unevenly, they wouldn't try to put their car there. But then you would, and you would make it work.
Through the middle?
Yes.
That was kind of a new thing today that I feel like So when Denny got close to me, sometime after the green flag stopped, like pretty early on, I went to they told me he was like ripping the very, very top. So like I went to the very top and he almost like poked to my inside through the middle. So I kind of kept that in the notebook and caught some slower cars that had split. I think the 60 was somebody I felt like I really needed to get by. And he went to the bottom and I was able to kind of plug the middle around him. It just was really lighter colored through there. Like there was less rubber, most where everybody's running was the very bottom and the very top. So the middle was kind of clean and had a lot of grip. And, I used that to my advantage for just a couple laps, but I think if you keep running there, you just wear out your tires. So again, we were looking after our tires today. And when I would make the pass, I just got back to the lanes that I thought would, save me throughout the length of the run.
All right, Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Cliff, you guys have gone through quite the range the last couple weeks, the last couple races, and I'm curious what, in a sense, better makes us a stronger, better organization group for the playoffs? What you went through last week and having to go through that, or going out and kicking everybody's butt on a week like today?
I think it's a great question, and you have to see all of the different facets of a failure and defeat and using the DVP policy and all the things that we had to do there that, in my opinion, was an incredible education and learning experience for our team. There are so many valuable things that we took away just from a process standpoint and even working with NASCAR. Something I will highlight is how keen they were on us rebuilding the car with all the proper safety aspects still in the car, and daggone it if we didn't hit the wall again in the same spot and the car was safe and all those things were done. So it was twofold in a team exercise of getting a car that was put together well, back on track, that we could go work on performance, also safety with that, and then at the same time, to make a deep run in the playoffs, you have to know how to push that edge of your team to go do the execution items to qualify well, to pit from the front, to keep it up front, Kyle managing the lanes as the leader, restarts, communication, timing, a lot of those things are just vital components. And, it's crazy how this week played out for us. Just strictly looking at the competition side, of course, the loss of John was a whole nother blow. But our team maintained a lot of positivity this week of knowing how much we learned and knowing how important that could be. I came in on the backside of Jeff talking about the playoffs for a company. We still do believe that there's more performance to go get at the Gateways and Loudons and Martinsvilles and especially Phoenix, that we've been a little bit behind some of those other guys. So there's work out there ahead of us that we need to go get and find the little bits of performance. But certainly having the dichotomy of such a dismal Sunday a week ago and the great Sunday that we had today is important for our team. We're going to keep growing and building on it, and still a long season ahead.
And also, you mentioned going back this week and watching 2004 Bristol race. So with everything that you have to do, with all your time limited in preparation each week, why are you watching a race from over 20 years ago? Are you that big of a Dale Jr. fan?
Well, I hate to admit this because just with my family background, I like to think of myself as a little bit of a NASCAR history buff, but I totally forgot, I think, the fact that "It's Bristol, baby" came from him from that race. So that was fun to see. Why am I watching it? I had exhausted myself on watching all of the 2023 and 2024 races. And as we're working through the week, there's a lot of things going on with our week, especially this week. But it was kind of on in the background. And for me, it's a helpful reminder just to see, the way the track has evolved, the way the sport has evolved, and just have a healthy appreciation for what it is that we do. There's so many, veterans and people of the past of our sport that have paved the way for us to get here. The next gen era is certainly unique to what it is, as have many of the eras of NASCAR been. But our whole team is a team full of racers, and we have a very healthy appreciation and respect for the ones who paved the way for us to be here.
Shane Connick. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good, Shane. Go
Shane
ahead.
Connick, Charlotte Observer. Kyle, Jeff was in here earlier, and he was saying it was, he talked to you about pulling off the triple potentially, and you were like, well, I didn't have the best truck on Friday. But regardless, though, how do you put this weekend, past 2 days specifically, just in words?
I don't know. I race a lot, so it's cool, to win 2 times in a row on the same weekend. But I don't overthink it or celebrate it too much, I guess. So I just love to race, and I love Bristol, and was really excited about this weekend. Obviously, wish I could have been one spot better on Friday to join Kyle, but regardless, I had a great time this weekend and got to lead a bunch of laps and challenge for wins and win a couple of them. So yeah, proud of it, and hopefully get the chance to do it again in the future. Next year would be, I'm done racing trucks and Xfinity for this year. So hopefully the schedule lays out right. Next year I can try again.
All right, Kyle, Cliff, congratulations again on your win today, and we appreciate the time you spent with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.